Chapter 1. The stirring of thought before the forge of reason was struck in any mind. Before the first question was dared aloud beneath the dome of heaven, there was Coeus born to Gaia and Uranus as the slow, sharp opening of thought itself. He was not the thunder that split rock, nor the tide that reshaped shores. He was the pause between two breaths, the space in which a mind could weigh one possibility against another. Where others of his kin embodied raw force or boundless hunger, Coeus carried the first cool ember of inquiry. From the moment of his waking, the world felt different where he walked. Stones seemed to hold patterns that only his eyes could read. The winds, shifting, offered logic rather than chaos. Even the stars took on sequences and questions, as if in answer to his silent curiosity. He was tall and lean, with eyes like pale flint hard and reflective on, a forehead thoughtful as a long river. Around his brow lingered that look of a man perpetually poised to ask the next thing, to turn over the next stone. Gaia watched him with that quiet, knowing sorrow and pride she reserved for her most peculiar children. "You are the hinge of the world," she told him once, earth-smelling voice deep as roots. "Where others uproot and fulminate, you will turn what is into what may be. Be careful, child questions can loosen more than answers bind Uranus." The sky was slow to see the value of Coeus's nature. He mistrusted the silent thinking that undermines decree. When one rules by breadth and blanket, a single question can be a crack. But Coeus did not ask to topple. His questions were instruments, scalpel-light and patient. He sought patterns, causes, and the chains that linked cause to consequence. In a court where Cronus sharpened ambition and Oceanus poured slow eternity, Coeus practiced the discipline of the mind. He was, in truth, first among the Titans to notice patterns the others missed. While Hyperion's light revealed, Coeus's thought catalogued. While Oceanus remembered the tides, Coeus measured why the sea bowed to moon and wind. While Iapetus threw himself at building or breaking, Coeus argued the likelihood of collapse and the merits of a counterweight. In councils, he did not shout, he asked, and those who listened, the Mnemosyne, even the cautious, they have found themselves guided by the map his questions drew. Yet intellect, like flame, has its hunger. Coeus's curiosity was not merely contemplative, it wished to know the architecture of the cosmos. Why stars marched as they did, what law lay beneath the rolling of seasons, whether prophecy could be unmade by understanding its pattern. He read the slow geometry of rivers and the pulse beneath moon's motions. He really listened to the whisper of the world, and in that attention accumulated both wisdom and a certain restless impatience. It was during those long periods of watchfulness that Coeus's path met Phoebe, his sister, and later his consort. Phoebe, the Titaness of prophetic radiance, moved through thought as though through a mirror. She reflected hidden truth, but did not pry. Where Coeus asked, Phoebe saw. Their union was natural and inevitable, like someone who asks the right question, finding, beside him, the answer already lodged in place. Their children would later weave into the great tapestry of gods and fate. In those first days, their joining felt less like creation and more like the beginning of a conversation that would echo through ages. The pair would sit upon dizzying heights between sky and earth, Coeus whispering hypothesis, Phoebe smiling with her slow, knowing light. "You want to measure the future," she told him once, "but remember, future is not an equation alone. It is a poem with irregular meter. To know it is to respect its music." not merely decode its rhyme. Coeus, who loved patterns, listened with a humility rare for his kind. He learned to mesh calculation with the shimmer of intuition, and their union birthed a patience that balanced his faster inclinations toward system and prediction. Chapter 3. The Council of Titans. The halls of Gaia's mountains echoed with a storm of voices. The Titans had gathered, each bringing their vastness into a space already trembling beneath their power. It was no council of calm. It was a forge of tempers, where ambition and fear struck against one another like flint and steel. Cronus, tall and sharp-edged, stood at the center, his sickle of adamantine gleaming with cruel promise. His voice carried like thunder rolling down valleys. Our father Uranus has ruled too long. His tyranny smothers us, his weight crushes Gaia, and his hand binds our fates. The time has come to break his hold and claim the sky for ourselves. A roar of assent rose. Atlas struck his fists together, the sound like mountains colliding. Iapetus bared his teeth, eager for the fight. Hyperion's golden light flared brighter, as if to burn away all hesitation. But Coeus did not roar. He sat quietly, fingers tracing the lines of a star map carved upon the stone before him. His silence was not fear, but calculation. When at last the others had exhausted their clamor, his voice entered like a still wind among storms. The voice of reason, brothers, sisters. Coeus began, his words deliberate, cool as river water over stone. Yes, Uranus is cruel, and yes, change must come. But consider carefully, what is the shape of the world after his fall? What rises when the sky itself is torn from the earth? The hall grew uneasy. Titans were mighty, but few liked to be reminded that every strike against the cosmos carried consequence. Cronus seeks to take our father's throne, Coeus continued, eyes narrowing upon the gleaming sickle. But ask yourselves, do we trade one tyrant for another? Do we gain freedom, or merely a different chain? Cronus's gaze darkened. You doubt me, brother. I question all. Coeus replied evenly. It is my nature. Would you have us leap into war blind, or shall we measure the cost before we spend it? The clash of voices, Atlas sneered. Questions do not win battles. Coeus, strength does. Iapetus slammed his hand upon the stone table, cracking it. Our father has mocked us, crushed us, cursed us. Shall we debate while he still reigns? Yet Themis raised her hand, calm and judicial. His questions are not weakness, but wisdom. A war unmeasured may free us, but it may also doom us. Mnemosyne spoke softly, memory in her tone. I remember the weight of Uranus's hand upon Gaia. I remember the endless silence before the stars sang. If we fight, we must not forget why, nor what comes after. And Phoebe, luminous with prophecy, said only Coeus speaks with reason. Listen, or the pattern of fate will repeat itself. Cronus's response. Cronus tightened his grip upon the sickle, his jaw hard as stone. I will hear your counsel, Coeus, but I will not be swayed from action. The blood of Uranus must fall upon this blade, and I shall be the one to strike. If you fear consequence, then guide me so the consequence favors us, but do not stand in my way. Coeus studied his brother. He saw not only ambition, but hunger sharpened into inevitability. He knew that nothing could dissuade Cronus, now not reason, not prophecy, not fear. The die was already cast, so he bowed his head slightly. Very well. If you must strike, then let us strike with order. Let each of us hold our place. Let each step be measured. If we must cut the heavens, let the cut be clean. The council's resolution by night's end, the council was resolved. Cronus would wield the sickle and strike Uranus. Atlas would bear the weight of the heavens should they collapse. Iapetus would seize the weapons of creation. Hyperion would burn the darkness away. And Couscous would guide them with the clarity of thought, marking the time, the place, the pattern in which the blow must fall. Though his heart was heavy, he knew his role. He could not stop the wheel of fate, but he could at least place his hands upon its spokes to steer the spin. As the council dispersed, Phoebe lingered by his side. "You warned them, yet they chose the path of blood," she said quietly. Coeus looked up to the North Star, steady above. "So be it. If war is the answer, then I shall make sure the question is asked." Well, Chapter 6. The birth of Zeus. The throne of Cronus stood unchallenged, and yet it was a throne of shadows. His belly, vast and heavy, carried within it the muffled cries of his children gods swallowed at birth. Their sparks of divinity chained in darkness. To the mortals who thrived in the Golden Age, Cronus was a bringer of peace and plenty. But to his queen, Rhea, he was a devourer of hope. The weeping of Rhea each time a child was torn from her arms, Rhea's heart broke anew. She had borne them in pain and love, only to watch their father's hands reach out in cold fear. The sight of her babes, swallowed whole, burned itself into her soul. When her sixth child stirred within her womb, her grief became unbearable. Alone upon Mount Ida, she wept, her tears soaking into the soil until flowers sprang at her feet. "Mother Earth," she cried, "how can I endure this cruelty? Shall all my children be devoured, one by one, until I am left barren of hope?" And Gaia, eternal and vast, rose from the earth beside her. Her voice was deep, filled with both sorrow and resolve. "Daughter, do not despair. The curse of Uranus lives on, and Cronus cannot escape it. But you need not lose this child. With cunning and courage you shall deceive him, and through this son the cycle shall turn." The plan of deception, Rhea's eyes glistened with both fear and determination. "Tell me, mother, what must I do?" Gaia's smile was like stone cracking under roots. "When the hour comes and you give birth, hide the babe away in secret. Into Cronus's hands you will place not the child, but a stone wrapped in swaddling cloth. He will not know until it is too late. And the boy, your youngest, shall grow in safety until his time arrives." Rhea trembled, torn between terror and resolve. "And what name shall I give him?" Gaia's voice was soft, as though carried by the wind. "Zeus, he shall be called Zeus, and the world shall tremble at his thunder." The hidden birth, the night came, dark and silent, when the child stirred within her. Alone she fled from the halls of Ethres, where Cronus sat upon his throne, and journeyed across land and sea until she reached the island of Crete. In the shadowed cave of Mount Dicte, she gave birth. The babe's cry rang through the cavern like a spark of lightning breaking silence. His eyes gleamed with a fire no mortal child could hold, and Rhea's heart swelled with love and fear alike. As she cradled him, the Curetes' armored spirits of Crete appeared. With their shields and spears, they promised to guard the cave, clashing their weapons to drown out the infant's cries, so Cronus would never hear. Rhea laid her son in a cradle of golden branches, and the goat Amalthea came, her milk nourishing the child destined to be king of gods. The stone of deceit, but even as she nursed her child, Cronus's shadow loomed in her mind. She knew she must return, lest her absence rouse suspicion. With trembling hands, she took a great stone, heavy and cold, and wrapped it in swaddling cloth. Her heart raced as she carried it back to Uthres, where Cronus awaited her with a gaze like fire. "You have borne me another child," he said, his voice thick with dread. "Give him to me." Rhea bowed her head, masking her sorrow. "Here he is, my lord." Without question, Cronus seized the bundle and swallowed it whole. The stone slid into his belly, and he sighed in grim satisfaction. "Another thread undone," he muttered, unaware of the deception. Rhea turned away, her heart pounding, knowing her son lived still, hidden and safe, his destiny untouched. Coeus's suspicion, yet not all were deceived. From the shadows, Coeus watched, his gaze piercing beyond appearances. He had seen the stars shift, felt the ripple in fate the moment Zeus was born. Later that night, he came to Rhea, his staff glimmering faintly with starlight. "Sister," he whispered, "do not fear. I know what you have done." Rhea stiffened, terror flashing in her eyes. "If you tell him," but Coeus raised a hand, his face grave. "I will not, for I, too, have read the curse in the heavens." Uranus's words echo still. "A son shall rise against his father. Let it be this son. Let him bear the weight of destiny." Rhea's tears fell, though now they were tears of relief. "Then you will protect him." "I will watch," Coeus replied. "And when the hour comes, I will guide him." The infant god, far away, hidden in the cave of Crete, the infant Zeus grew strong. The Curetes clashed their shields, drowning out his cries. Amalthea fed him with her milk, and from her horn would one day come the cornucopia, the horn of plenty. He played among the nymphs, his laughter echoing like the first rumble of thunder. Lightning danced in his tiny hands, sparks crackling as though the sky itself recognized its heir. And above them all, the stars turned slowly, their silent song weaving the fate of gods and men. Chapter 7. The Rise of Zeus. The child hidden in the cave of Crete grew swiftly, nourished by divine milk and guarded by spirits of steel. Yet Zeus was no ordinary child. From the moment his hands first sparked with lightning, it was clear the cosmos itself had chosen him. While Cronus sat upon his throne, believing himself unchallenged, the boy of prophecy grew in secret strength. The cave of Crete. The cave of Mount Dicte became Zeus's first kingdom. Its walls glimmered with crystals, echoing his laughter like the roll of distant thunder. The Curetes, clad in bronze, clashed their shields and stamped their feet, each noise drowning out the child's voice so Cronus would never hear. Nymphs tended him with tender hands, weaving him garments of woven light. Amalthea, the gentle goat, fed him with her milk, her presence both comfort and protection. From her horn, which Zeus once playfully snapped by accident, sprang forth the cornucopian eternal vessel of abundance, symbol of a god who would one day bring both plenty and storm. But Zeus was not raised only in comfort. The nymphs taught him to climb the mountain peaks, to wrestle with the wild beasts, and to run swifter than the winds. The Curetes showed him the art of battle, how to strike with precision, how to defend against those stronger than himself. And always, in the silence of the night, he felt the storm within him, lightning flickering at his fingertips, thunder rolling faintly in his chest. Coeus's watchful eye far across the heavens, Coeus kept his vigil. Though Cronus had swallowed the stone, the Titan of intellect was not deceived. He had traced the shifting constellations, and each one whispered of Zeus's growing might. Through dreams, he reached out to the boy. On nights when Zeus lay upon the cavern floor, staring at the stars, he would hear a voice in his mind, calm and resonant. "Remember, child, you are more than flesh and bone. You are the storm itself. The day will come when you must rise not for yourself, but for all who are chained by fear." Zeus would nod silently, clutching a spark of lightning in his palm. He did not yet know his destiny, but he felt its weight. The testing of strength. As Zeus grew to manhood, his spirit burned with restless energy. He climbed higher than any mortal could dare, standing upon the mountain's peak to challenge the sky. One day, a great eagle, wings wide as thunderclouds, descended from the heavens. Its eyes burned golden, its talons sharp as bronze. The nymphs fled in fear, but Zeus stood firm, a spark dancing in his hands. The eagle struck, but Zeus leaped aside, his movements swift as wind. With a cry that shook the mountain, he hurled a bolt of lightning. It struck the eagle's wing, sending the beast screeching into the clouds. From that day, the eagle became his companion, returning often to fly beside him. It was the first sign that Zeus' power over the sky was not merely his own, it was his birthright. The knowledge of injustice, yet even in triumph, Zeus was not blind. He learned from the nymphs and the Curetes the truth of his father's reign, how Cronus had devoured his brothers and sisters, swallowing them in paranoia and fear. When he heard this, Zeus's eyes darkened like storm clouds. "They live still within him," said the nymph Adrastea, "imprisoned but not destroyed. Their cries echo faintly in the belly of your father." Zeus clenched his fists, lightning flashing between his fingers. "Then I will free them. No prison, not even the belly of a Titan, can hold the gods." Rhea's secret meeting in time. Rhea herself, weary of grief and longing, sought out her hidden son, cloaked in shadow. She came to the cave, her heart trembling as she beheld the man he had become. "My child," she whispered, touching his face, "you are the last hope of your kin. Your brothers and sisters cry within your father's belly, and the world itself waits for you to rise. You must be cunning as well as strong, for Cronus is mighty and ever watchful." Zeus embraced her, his voice steady. "Mother, I will not fail you. The age of fear shall end, and the age of the Olympians shall begin." The gathering storm. From that day forward, Zeus began to prepare. He sought wisdom from Oceanus, strength from Hyperion's light, and cunning from Coeus' whispered dreams. The world itself seemed to rally to him. Rivers bent their paths to guide his journeys. Storms gathered to test his command, and beasts of the wild knelt at his passing. Cronus, high upon his throne, remained ignorant, though at times he would feel a tremor in his gut, as though the children within stirred with hope. He dismissed it as a trick of the curse, but the curse was real, the prophecy was alive, and Zeus was readying himself to fulfill it. The oath of Zeus. One night, thunder rolled across the skies, lightning burst in brilliant arcs, and the very earth shook with his cry. "I am Zeus, son of Cronus and Rhea. I am the storm, the sky, the thunder. By my hand, my siblings shall be freed, and the tyranny of the Titans shall fall." The mountain echoed his words, and even the stars above seemed to tremble. In that moment, Zeus was no longer the hidden child of a betrayed mother. He was the rising god, destined to challenge the king of the Titans. Chapter 8. The cunning of Metis. The storm in Zeus's heart had grown too vast to be contained. He had trained his body to wield thunder, and his spirit to bear destiny. Yet still the shadow of Cronus loomed. for no strength alone could overcome the king of the Titans, whose belly held the gods themselves. If Zeus was to rise, he would need not only might, but wisdom, the whisper of Coeus. In a dream beneath a sky heavy with stars, Coeus came to him again. His voice was steady, but beneath it lay urgency. Zeus, the Titan said, "You are nearly ready, but strength cannot free your kin. To shatter Cronus's rule, you must strike, not with the storm alone, but with cunning sharper than the sickle that felled Uranus. Seek the goddess of counsel, the daughter of Oceanus Metis. In her wisdom lies the key." When Zeus woke, the words burned in his mind. He set forth at dawn, guided by winds that seemed to bend at his will, and the eagle soared above him as a herald of his coming. The dwelling of Metis dwelt deep in a hidden glade, where the roots of the world drank from Oceanus's endless waters. She was no Titan of vast form, no goddess of overwhelming power, but rather a presence subtle as a whisper. Her eyes gleamed with intelligence. Her hands wove threads of fate into patterns unseen by others. As Zeus approached, she spoke before he could utter a word. "You seek to overthrow Cronus." Zeus's jaw tightened. "I seek to free my brothers and sisters. The world cannot thrive beneath his fear." Metis tilted her head, a faint smile playing upon her lips. Noble words. "Yet, to free them, you must make him yield. Cronus devours all, but he has never released what he has consumed. His hunger is endless." "Then teach me how to unmake his hunger," Zeus demanded. The brewing of the potion Metis studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well. The way lies not in steel or lightning, but in craft. Cronus's belly is strong, but his pride is greater. If he can be made to drink of what he believes is his triumph, his own body will betray him." She gathered herbs from the edges of the glade, bitter roots that carried the sting of truth, blossoms that released hidden voices, and water drawn from Oceanus's depths. Into the mixture she whispered words older than Titans, words that carried the power of inevitability. When the brew was done, it shimmered darkly, a draught both foul and irresistible. "This," Metis said, holding it forth in a vessel of clay, "will loosen what he has swallowed. If Cronus drinks it, the children within will be freed. But beware, son of Rhea, once they are loosed, war will follow. You cannot stop the tide once it begins." Zeus accepted the vessel, lightning flashing faintly around his hand. "Then let the tide rise. Let it wash clean the chains of fear." The disguise, but how could Zeus approach Cronus, who devoured any threat he sensed? Metis smiled knowingly, as though reading the storm of doubt in his mind. "You shall not go as yourself. Take this form." She brushed her hand across his brow, and his mighty frame shrank, his thunder dimmed. In his place stood a humble cupbearer, a servant easily overlooked in the halls of Ithras. "Go now," she said. "Offer the drink not as a foe, but as a gift. Pride will be his downfall." Zeus bowed, his disguise shimmering around him like a cloak. "I will not fail the feast of Cronus." That night, in the great hall of Othries, Cronus held a feast. He sat upon his throne, towering above all, a crown of jagged bronze upon his brow. Titans and lesser gods filled the chamber, but all bowed before the king, who believed himself eternal. Zeus entered silently among the servants, carrying the clay vessel close to his chest. His heart thundered louder than any storm, yet his face remained humble. As the feast waned, he stepped forward, bowing low. "Great Cronus," he said, voice soft and servile, Accept this drink to honor your reign, brewed from the depths of Oceanus and sweetened with the fruits of earth. May it refresh your strength." Cronus's eyes glowed with pride. He seized the vessel without hesitation. "Yes," he boomed. "Let all see how even the lowliest bring tribute to their king." And he drank deep. The unraveling for a moment, nothing stirred. Then Cronus's eyes widened, his breath shuddered, and a roar split the hall. His stomach churned like a storm-tossed sea, his body convulsing as if the curse of Uranus itself had awakened. One by one, the swallowed children burst forth, first Hestia, then Demeter, then Hera, then Hades, then Poseidonach, reborn in a blaze of light, their divinity unbroken by years of imprisonment. The hall shook with their cries of freedom. The Titans looked on in shock and fear, while Cronus staggered, weakened by his own undoing. And standing among them, his disguise falling away, was Zeus. Lightning flared in his eyes as he raised his hand. "The time of fear is over," he thundered. "The children of Cronus are free." Chapter 9. The first clash. The hall of Othrys shook with cries of freedom and fury. Cronus, once the unshakable king, had fallen to his knees, undone not by blade nor thunder, but by the cunning of Metis and the daring of Zeus. From his broken frame leaped forth the children he had swallowed: Hestia, goddess of the sacred flame; Demeter, goddess of harvest and earth's bounty; Hera, radiant in her queenly power; Hades, dark and solemn as the underworld; and Poseidon, whose presence carried the roar of the sea. They had been swallowed in infancy, yet emerged fully grown, clothed in divine radiance, as if the years of captivity had only ripened their strength. The awakening of the Olympians. For the first time, the six stood together, siblings forged by suffering, bound by destiny. Zeus, lightning in his hand, turned to them, his voice strong, though the weight of fate pressed upon him. "Brothers, sisters, Cronus sought to erase us, but we endure. By his fall, we are reborn. Now we must take what is ours not for vengeance, but for the freedom of the world." Poseidon raised a hand, and the air filled with the echo of crashing waves. The seas themselves rage for freedom. "I stand with you, brother." Hedis's dark eyes burned like embers in shadow. "Cronus devoured me once, never again will I bow. My strength shall bind the underworld to our cause." Hera's gaze was proud, unyielding. "Then let us rise together. If the Titans rule by fear, we will rule by justice." And so the six gods swore before the fading firelight of Ethris that they would stand as one. The wrath of Cronus. But Cronus was not yet broken. Struggling to his feet, his form loomed once more, though weaker than before. His roar shook the stones of Othrys' ungrateful children. "You dare raise hand against your father. I am Cronus, Lord of Time, and none may defy me." He seized his sickle, the same that once spilled the blood of Uranus. Its edge gleamed with ancient power, sharp enough to cut fate itself. The Titans who had feasted at his table now rose to his side, Menicius, fierce as fire; Hyperion, blazing like the sun; and Iapetus, whose strength could shatter mountains. Their loyalty was not born of love, but of fear and pride, and they would not yield their dominion easily. The first clash, the hall erupted into chaos. Zeus hurled his lightning, blinding the Titans in a storm of light. Poseidon struck the ground with his trident, and waves surged from nothingness, flooding the chamber. Hades raised shadows that coiled like chains, binding the feet of Cronus's allies. Hestia's flame burned bright, shielding her siblings from the Titan's wrath. while Demeter's power shook the stone as roots burst through the floor, tangling and crushing. Hera, with her unyielding presence, rallied them, her voice cutting through the storm. Stand strong, we are the future. Yet the Titans fought with fury. Hyperion's fire blazed against Demeter's earth. Iapetus shattered Hades's chains, and Metis charged through the flood, striking Poseidon with a blow that shook the young god. Cronus himself clashed with Zeus. The sickle rang against the thunderbolt, sparks of time and storm shattering the air. The father's strength still dwarfed the son's, and each strike drove Zeus back, his body trembling beneath the weight of destiny. The narrow escape. Though their spirits burned bright, the young gods were not yet strong enough. Cronus's fury was overwhelming, and the Titans pressed their advantage. The hall of Othries threatened to collapse under their power. Seeing their peril, Metis appeared once more, her form like a shadow at the edge of sight. Her voice whispered into Zeus's ear, "Do not squander your strength here. This is but the first battle, not the last. Flee, gather allies, and let the storm grow. You are not yet ready to break him." Zeus's jaw clenched, rage warring with reason, but at last he raised his hand. "Brothers, sisters, fall back." A great flash of lightning filled the hall, blinding all within. When the light faded, the 6 Olympians were gone, carried away by storm and shadow. The oath of war. Cronus staggered, sickle in hand, his body still weakened from the potion. His roar of fury echoed through the mountains. "They will pay. I will grind them beneath the wheel of time." The Titans answered with thunderous cries, swearing to crush the rebellion before it spread. Far away, in a cavern hidden by storm, the 6 Olympians gathered. Their bodies bore the marks of battle, but their eyes burned with unyielding fire. "We are no longer swallowed children," Zeus said. "We are gods, born to rule the heavens, the seas, the earth, and the underworld. Cronus has declared war, and war he shall have." Thus was the beginning of the great Titanamachi, the war that would decide the fate of the cosmos. Chapter 1. The Council of Gaia. The Olympians had fled from the fury of Cronus. Their first battle, a harsh reminder of the power that still clung to the elder Titans. The mountain stronghold of Othries remained unbroken, its halls echoing with the wrath of Cronus and the war cries of his loyal kin. But far from that storm of rage, in a cavern deep beneath the world's roots, the 6 siblings gathered. Their strength was undeniable, their bond unshakable, yet their hearts were heavy with doubt. For though they had tasted battle, they had also tasted defeat. The weight of doubt Poseidon paced like a storm contained, the trident in his hand striking sparks against the stone floor. "We cannot run forever. The seas are restless within me. I will not hide while Cronus tightens his grip on the world." Hades, seated in shadow, spoke with quiet anger. "And what would you have us do? Face him again now? We barely escaped with our lives. Cronus's strength has not yet faded, and the Titans are many. Alone, we are too few." Hera's eyes shone with defiance. "Then we must not be alone. Somewhere in this vast world, there must be allies willing to defy the tyranny of Cronus." Demeter bowed her head, her voice soft yet steady. "The earth itself cries for freedom. Its rivers and fields are shackled by the rule of fear. Perhaps the answer lies not in our strength, but in the wisdom of those older than even Cronus." Zeus, who had been silent, clenched his fists. The thunder within him stirred, restless as his thoughts. "If wisdom is what we need, then there is only one to whom we can turn. She who bore Cronus, who bore us, all the ancient mother, Gaia. At these words, Hestia's flame flickered brightly. Gaia, the Earth Mother. If she will speak, her guidance may shape our path. But beware, her counsel is not given lightly, nor is it free of cost. The journey to the depths. The siblings set out beneath the shroud of night. Zeus led them through storm and shadow. Poseidon carved rivers where none had flowed, and Hades cloaked them in veils of silence. They descended into caverns older than Olympus itself, where the air grew thick and heavy, and the pulse of the world could be felt in every stone. Roots like pillars stretched endlessly downward, binding earth to sky, while rivers of fire coursed through veins of rock. At last, they reached a cavern where no mortal eye had ever wandered. The air trembled with power, and the very stone seemed alive. From the ground rose a figure vast as the mountains, her form woven of soil, stone, and root. Her eyes glowed with the slow fire of the earth's core. It was Gaia, ancient mother, who had seen the birth of the heavens and the fall of Uranus. The voice of Gaia, her voice was the rumble of mountains shifting, the whisper of rivers flowing, the sigh of forests in the wind. "My children," she said, her gaze deep as the abyss. "I felt your footsteps before you came. You seek counsel, for the storm of war is upon you." Zeus stepped forward, thunder still sparking faintly in his palm. "Great Mother, Cronus has risen against us, and the Titans rally to him. Alone, we cannot prevail. Tell us, what must we do?" Gaia's gaze lingered on each sibling, as though measuring the weight of their souls. "Cronus is strong, but even strength wanes when time demands its toll. The Titans rule by pride, yet pride blinds. Their downfall will come not by storm alone, but by cunning, by unity, and by those whom they cast aside." Her hand touched the earth, and visions stirred in the dust. Images of monstrous forms, vast and terrible, buried deep within Tartarus. "There lies your answer," Gaia continued. "The Hecatoncheires, the hundred-handed ones, and the Cyclopes, one-eyed smiths of fire. Cronus cast them into darkness, fearing their might. Free them, and they shall forge for you the weapons of victory." The prophecy of Gaia, the earth trembled as Gaia's voice deepened, and her words became prophecy. "Zeus, child of thunder, you shall bear the lightning, the weapon that sunders sky and stones. Poseidon, lord of seas, you shall wield the trident to shatter earth and stir the oceans. Hades, keeper of shadow, you shall hold the helm of invisibility, to move unseen and strike in silence. Together with your sisters, as flame, earth, and queenly might, you shall lead the gods to victory. But beware, Cronus is not the only shadow upon the horizon. Beyond him stirs a power older still, a storm that even Olympus may tremble to face." The siblings listened, their hearts heavy yet aflame. Zeus bowed his head. "Then it is decided. We will descend into Tartarus, free those whom Cronus has wronged, and take up the weapons of destiny. Mother, for your wisdom we give thanks." Gaia's eyes softened. "Go, my children. But know, the path ahead is drenched in blood, and victory is never without cost." The dawn of resolve. As the siblings departed, the earth trembled behind them, sealing Gaia's cavern in silence once more. Zeus turned to his brothers and sisters, his voice ringing with newfound resolve. "The time of hiding is over. We will free the Cyclopes and Hecatoncheires. We will forge weapons that even Cronus cannot withstand. And when next we face him, we will not flee. Poseidon raised his trident high, its 3 prongs glowing with oceanic fire. Let the seas roar with us. Hades's helm shimmered with dark promise. Let the shadows be our ally. Hestia's flame burned, steady and eternal. Let our fire guide us. Demeter's hands bloomed with life. Let the earth itself rise against tyranny, and Hera's voice rang with command. Let us march as one, not as scattered siblings, but as Olympians for the first time. The name took shape in their hearts, a name that would endure through ages, the Olympians. Chapter 11. The descent into Tartarus. The council of Gaia lingered in the hearts of the young gods. Her words burned like prophecy, shaping their resolve into steel. No longer would they merely resist Cronus, they would rise with weapons forged from the fire of destiny. But to claim such weapons, they would have to tread the path few dared to speak of, the descent into Tartarus, the abyss of eternal night, where the damned and the forsaken writhed in endless chains. The path to the abyss, led by Zeus, the siblings ventured into the deepest roots of the earth, where no light of sun or star dared intrude. The walls wept with molten stone, and shadows seemed alive, whispering threats and promises in equal measure. Poseidon walked with steady stride, though the air here was dry and hostile to his watery essence. His trident glowed faintly, a beacon against the choking dark. Hades alone seemed at ease, for the underworld's silence was kin to him. His eyes scanned the black depths with calm calculation. "We are close," he murmured, "to the realm where even gods fear to tread." Hera's voice, steady as command, rallied their courage. "Remember why we came. Cronus's tyranny ends only if we find allies here." Demeter pressed her hand to the stone, feeling roots that trembled with pain. Even the earth recoils from this prison, and Hestia, though her flame was but a flicker in the smothering gloom, whispered softly, "My fire shall not falter. We walk in shadow, but we carry light." The gates of Tartarus. At last, they reached a chasm vast beyond measure. It yawned like the mouth of eternity, swallowing all sound. From its depths rose a stench of despair, the reek of forgotten centuries. Chained at the threshold were 2 colossal beings, the Hecatonchires, the 100-handed ones. Their bodies, monstrous yet majestic, bore shackles forged by Cronus himself. Each of their 100 hands clawed at the void, but their eyes gleamed with sorrow and rage. Beyond them, within the abyss, the faint glow of fire revealed the Cyclopes, bent and broken, their single eyes dulled by centuries of imprisonment. The clanging of their chains echoed like the beating of a wounded heart. Zeus's breath caught at the sight. "These are the ones Cronus feared," Gaia's voice echoed faintly in memory. "Free them, and they shall forge for you the weapons of victory." The guardian of the pit, but the way was not unguarded. From the abyss rose a figure vast and terrible, Camp, the serpentine jailer of Tartarus. Her body coiled like a dragon, wings black as night stretched wide. Her waist was girded with writhing serpents, and from her hair sprouted the heads of beasts, each howling in madness. Her voice hissed like molten iron. "Who dares disturb the chains of Cronus's prisoners? Who dares trespass in Tartarus?" Zeus raised his thunderbolt, its light pushing back the dark. "We are the children of Cronus, the Olympians. We come to free those he has wronged, and no jailer shall stop us." Camp's laughter was a storm of madness. "Then you shall taste Tartarus as your tomb." The battle with Camp, the cavern shook as Camp struck, her whip of scorpions cracking against the stone. Fire rained from her maw, forcing the siblings apart. Poseidon surged forward, trident glowing with oceanic power. He struck at her coils, sending tremors through her body, but her tail lashed out, hurling him against the cavern wall. Hades vanished into shadow, reappearing behind her with his helm, striking silent blows. Yet Camp's serpents snapped at him, their fangs dripping with venom. Demeter called forth roots from the very stone, binding her limbs, while Hera's commanding cry rallied the siblings, strike as one. Hestia flared, her fire burning brighter than it ever had in the world above. Flames wrapped around Camp's wings, searing them. At last, Zeus hurled his thunderbolt. Lightning split the abyss, crashing into Camp's chest. With a scream that shook the underworld, the guardian fell, her massive body plunging into the endless chasm. The breaking of chains, with Camp defeated, silence fell heavy. The siblings approached the chained giants. Zeus raised his thunderbolt, striking the shackles of the Hecatonchires. One by one, the bonds shattered, and the 100 hands stretched wide, shaking the very earth. Their voices boomed like mountains, breaking free at last. Poseidon struck the chains of the Cyclopes, and the smiths of fire stood tall, their single eyes blazing with renewed fury. Cronus feared us, one Cyclops rumbled, but in our forges lies the power to end his reign. Hades stepped forward. Then join us, the war has begun. The Cyclopes bowed, and the Hecatonchires raised their countless arms in pledge. The promise of weapons in the fires of Tartarus, the Cyclopes began their work. Sparks lit the abyss as hammers rang against anvils. From their forges would come weapons, not of mere metal, but of divine essence. They turned to Zeus, for you, the thunderbolt, lightning made flesh. To Poseidon, for you, the trident to shake earth and sea. To Hades, for you, the helm of invisibility, to strike unseen. The siblings watched awe, mingling with resolve. Gaia's prophecy was taking form before their eyes. The rising storm, as the forges roared and chains lay broken. Zeus stood at the edge of the abyss, his hand raised high. Cronus cast them into darkness. We have brought them into light. The time of fear ends now. The time of war begins. The voices of the Hecatonchires boomed in answer. The Cyclopes hammered their pledge into steel, and the Olympians felt the weight of destiny settle upon them. The war for the cosmos was no longer a dream of rebellion. It was a storm rising from Tartarus itself. Chapter 12. The Titanamachi, the chains of Tartarus, lay shattered. The Hecatonchires, towering with their 100 hands, had risen from despair. The Cyclopes had reignited their forges, gifting the Olympians weapons born of fire and divine essence. No longer were the children of Cronus hunted or scattered. They were gods armed with destiny, standing at the edge of a war that would shape the cosmos itself. The call to war from the heights of Mount Olympus. Zeus stood with lightning crackling in his hand. His voice carried across the heavens. Olympians, Titans rule by fear, but their age ends tonight. Cronus devoured his children, cast away his brothers, and chained the children of Gaia. No more. By thunder and flame, by sea and shadow, we claim the world. Beside him, Poseidon raised his trident, the seas roaring in answer. Hades lowered his helm, his form vanishing into unseen power. Hera's command echoed like a queen's decree. Demeter's earth surged with life, and Hestia's eternal flame burned as a beacon of hope. The heavens trembled with their vow. the mustering of the Titans. From Mount Othrys, Cronus heard the cry and rallied his kin. Hyperion blazed like the sun, Iapetus roared with strength, and Metis burned with reckless fury. Coeus, Titan of intellect, sharpened his gaze, his mind calculating every possible path of war. Cronus raised his sickle, its blade still gleaming with the blood of Uranus. Let the heavens shake, let the earth crack. We are Titans, eternal and unyielding. No child shall steal our throne. And so the armies gathered, Titans upon Atheris, Olympians upon Olympus, the world between them quaking at the weight of destiny. The clash of heavens, the war began with a roar that split the sky. Zeus hurled his first thunderbolt, a spear of lightning that lit the heavens and struck Aethris. The mountain shook, and Titans surged forth in answer. Poseidon raised seas that swallowed the land, hurling waves against the Titans. Hyperion's fire blazed back, boiling the waters into steam. Hades vanished into shadow, reappearing to strike unseen. But Iapetus shattered mountains with his fists, each blow tearing the ground. The Hecatonchires waded into battle, their 100 hands hurling boulders like storms of meteors, forcing even the proud Titans to stagger. The Cyclopes forged weapons mid-battle, fire raining as their hammers struck. Cronus versus Zeus, at the heart of the war, father met son. Cronus swung his sickle, its edge slicing through sky and stone. Zeus met it with his thunderbolt, lightning shattering the air. Each clash was the meeting of ages, the old world clinging to power, the new world rising in defiance. Ungrateful wretch, Cronus bellowed, I gave you life, you gave us chains. Zeus thundered back, now I give the world freedom. The sickle cut time itself, but Zeus hurled lightning into its heart, cracking the blade. With each strike, the old king faltered, the turning of the tide. While Cronus and Zeus clashed, the battle raged. Poseidon drove his trident into Metis, whose reckless fury could not withstand the might of sea and storm. Hades slipped unseen, stealing the will of Iapetus with shadows that bound his strength. Hyperion blazed brightest, his fire scorching the earth. But Demeter summoned forests to entangle him, and Hestia's flame countered his blaze with purity unyielding. Hera, her voice commanding, rallied the Olympians and their allies, binding them as one. The tide turned against the Titans, their pride shattering beneath unity. The fall of Cronus. Cronus fought with desperation, his sickle whirling. Yet Zeus, wielding the thunderbolt crafted by the Cyclopes, struck with the force of storm eternal. Lightning pierced the heavens, thunder shattered the mountains, and at last the sickle of Cronus broke. The king of Titans staggered, his power undone. The world seemed to hold its breath as Zeus raised his hand for the final blow. Your time is over, father. The thunderbolt fell, and Cronus was cast down, his body hurled into the depths of Tartarus. The end of the Titanamachi, the Titans, broken and scattered, were bound in chains forged by the Cyclopes and hurled into Tartarus, guarded by the Hecatonchires. The war was ended, the heavens cleared, the seas calmed, the earth breathed anew. On Olympus, the siblings stood together. Zeus, thunderbolt in hand, was crowned king of the gods. Hera stood as queen, Demeter as keeper of harvest, Hestia as guardian of hearth, Poseidon as lord of the seas, and Hades as ruler of the underworld. The age of the Titans had ended. The age of the Olympians had begun.